Hello and welcome to the BA News Show, your weekly news show every Friday at 5 PM with your host me, I'm Rich, and also my good friend Tabs.
Hello.
So I'd say some stories to get through this week. Nothing I would say outstanding this week. I would say it's a mediocre week for news. But we're going to start, as we always do, with what we've been playing this week. So Tabs, take it away.
Everyone's just left, mate. There's no point doing the news show anymore. Basically said that. No, thanks for hanging around, BArcadians. So what have we been playing this week? Well, for me, it's been Ghost of Tsushima Legends. So we talked about it briefly last week. Got stuck into it over the weekend. Yeah, just it's nice to relive some of the combat in that game, which is the best part about it. And then specifically, you know, the way they designed the grinding mechanic just works nicely. So yeah, I mean, Rich will tell us how he's doing in a minute, but I think I'm getting close to raid ready. I'd really like some decent legendary weapons, which is if you play Destiny, it's like, you know, the top tier level of gear and equipment. But like the level I'm at is, you know, I think I'm ready for the raid when that's going to drop. So yeah, BArcadians out there, if you like Ghost of Tsushima, it's very much in that kind of live service mold, the multiplayer, you know, so think Destiny. But obviously not quite as fleshed out because it's a free expansion essentially. But so grateful to Sucker Punch for, you know, for the experience. So thank you, Sucker Punch, that you're not watching, but I hope you can feel. Rich, what about you, my friend?
So as Tabs has alluded to, I've also been playing this, not probably as much as Tabs, I think, and much like the vein of Monster Hunter, Tabs has run away with the fairies again. And I'm basically, and also ran at this point, a much lower level. However, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the grind. Two modes on this, a story mode, which is only 2-player at the moment, and a survival mode, which is 4-player. Both good and unique in their own right. I much prefer the story mode because it lets you become your own and you can use all of those skills that you learnt while playing the full game. You can use them, whereas the survival mode basically ends up with just a bit of a hack and slash button bash, for me anyway. But yeah, really enjoying it, and I have to say I completely agree with Tabs. It's a wonderful addition to the game and such a great to be able to play online on what is a brilliant game that we absolutely love. And now we get to play online together, so that is awesome. I
mean, for reference, BArcadians, the gulf between us, I'm at level 100.
And Rich is level 5.
No, he's level 80, so he's not that far away. And also, Rich, you started out, well, it was tough, wasn't it? Because I've chosen the support class, the Ronin, and you've gone for the Assassin. So you were basically filling your boots with kills early doors, and I was like, I can't do anything. I can just heal you now and again. So I suppose, yeah, the roles have reversed a little bit because I can now hold my own, given I'm a little bit of a higher level. But yeah, it's nicely balanced, I would say, in total, because my Ronin character's coming to its own now. But move us on with the news, Rich. I know we're blabbing. Let us know, BArcadians, if you want a separate video on Ghost of Tsushima Legends. I'm sure we can do something.
Absolutely. So first up this week, we've got Doom Eternal DLC. So is this out, Tabs, or is this coming out shortly?
There's reviews out there. I think it might be released shortly. So I've not put that on this write-up, have I? But I thought we'd just give an impression we've received. Yeah, it won't be out yet because it's a preview. Sorry, from PC Gamer.
Cool. So this is what PC Gamer had to say on it. We'll have our final thoughts up in the next few days, but if the final 2 levels are as big, intricate, beautiful and challenging as the first, I'm thinking $20 for something like 6 more hours of Doom Eternal is a good deal. And if part 2 keeps the pace, it's $30 for both parts, we're basically getting another whole Doom game out of the Ancient Gods. So high praise indeed. Sounds like it's much more of the same that we've come to see in Doom Eternal, and fans of the series, I guess, will be very happy with that.
This is it. I wanted to, as you'll come on to, Rich, just comment on the Switch version though, because we were, I think, expecting the actual base Doom Eternal game to be out on Switch by now. We know it got delayed. So yeah, why don't you tell us all about that? So
yeah, the Switch version, as Tabs has said, nothing like in fact on this at the moment, but this is what they had to say in a recent interview with digital foundress John Lineman during PAX PAX Cross EGX, ID Software's Marty Stratton had this to say. We're trying to make it the best version of the game it possibly can be. So we've been working with Panic Button. They're also, like everybody, working from home, so it's taking a little bit longer to get it out there. We want it to be everything it possibly can be. It's very close, and we're trying to be very uncompromising with it, as it needs to be, because there is high demand for it. And Superdata has estimated that as of March 2020, the game has sold 3 million digital copies worldwide, beating Doom 2016's 957,000 units of launch month sales. This made Eternal the 4th highest grossing console game of March 2020.
See, this is interesting, Rich. Before I'd read this or read about it, I actually thought that maybe Doom Eternal was being held back for this, you know, much rumoured Switch Pro. I thought that might be the ideal launch game. You know, perhaps they've been working on it behind the scenes. They're having to make too many compromises, and it's like, oh, well, we'll just wait for the Switch Pro. We'll launch it on that. You know, and obviously get hopefully a load of installers early doors who are buying the Switch Pro. But no, this seems to suggest that it is actually still going to make it out for the Switch. And yeah, it sounds like Doom as a franchise. I wasn't sure how well this kind of sequel to the original Doom 2016 performed. But from what we're hearing, you know, that's pretty decent numbers there, aren't they?
Absolutely, and actually, it's not a game that appeals to me. I've well documented that I get motion sickness for this kind of game, but I have actually watched quite a few like streams of people playing this, and it looks really good fun to play. Looks challenging, which is always what you're looking for, especially on the single player stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's obviously been well received, sold really well, and hopefully, to be honest, it's really good to see them saying they don't want to just put out a sort of watered down version of the game to make it run on the Switch. It sounds like they want to try and get it as polished and as up to date as we're seeing on, you know, PS4 and Xbox One. So yeah, I think it's really endearing, and hopefully good things to come.
I mean, yeah, it's going to have compromises. We can't get away from that. But yeah, like you say, it sounds like they're not just going to slap it out there, you know, and potentially patch it down the line, and it's half broken when it's launched. You know, we've seen other companies do that. We've seen what EA recently released FIFA, the latest edition on the Switch, and it's basically the 2019 version reskinned. So it is nice to see that they're actually putting the time in. You know, they want it to be almost a standalone product in itself on the Switch. And again, that rings true in what we're hearing there about the DLC, that it's good value. There's a lot of content there. So yeah, chuffed to bits with that, and something to celebrate from, you know, id Software and their development and, you know, philosophy generally, I
Absolutely.
suppose.
Move us on.
Shall I move us on? Kojima Productions keep on keeping on. For those of you who didn't get that little reference, that was a Death Stranding joke, really. So Joe Screbbles from IGN, I think it was a published story today, actually, Rich, Thursday when we filmed. Kojima Productions has confirmed that it's working on a new project and is hiring best-in-class talent for its Tokyo studio. And this was confirmed by like an announcement / recruitment ad on Twitter. So the game itself is something of a mystery at this point, Scrabble says, with only vague clues listed on the Kojima Productions careers page. There are mentions of 3D model production for weapons, gadgets, vehicles, mechas, and desired experience with event control systems in RPGs, but there's very few specifics beyond that. I mean, Rich, that bit there, weapons, gadgets, vehicles, mechas, that sounds like Death Stranding, doesn't it?
Yeah, or Metal Gear Solid. I mean, you know, it could be. I think that's a red herring. I'm not saying we're going to see another Metal Gear Solid, although I would very much love that. But absolutely, it sounds very much in the vein of, you know, a Death Stranding type scenario. Yeah, it's difficult to know what to make of this. You know, this is going to be so early in development. If it is a new IP rather than what, say, a Death Stranding 2 or whatever a Death Stranding, you know, 2 would be, it might even not be called Death Stranding. It's difficult to know because this game's going to be such a many years away. You know, if this has a similar life cycle to the making of Death Stranding, then we've got to think this game's 5-6 years away. So it's very difficult to know what that might be, but it definitely seems that he's going to go much more of the same that we've seen from both Kojima when he worked with Konami and also when he worked on his own in Kojima Productions.
I'd love to know the sales figures on Death Stranding, actually, because I think you bang on. I think there's 3 options here, isn't it? It's either a direct sequel to Death Stranding, or at least in that universe. It's an iteration of perhaps Death Stranding and the Strand game concept. Obviously, staying within Kojima's wheelhouse of the types of games he's made in the past, you know, Metal Gear Solid. Or following rumours that, you know, Sony are perhaps somehow borrowing, renting, maybe they've bought the franchises of Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill. Maybe it's a Metal Gear Solid game. So I think they're all good shouts based on what we're seeing here.
What we can say from pretty much certainty is Kojima is not working on a Silent Hill remake. I think that's, you know, those things wouldn't appear in a Silent Hill remake.
No, unless they've absolutely gone off piste with it. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I'm chuffed to bits that Kojima Productions are working on a game. Hopefully, you know, a next-gen game for the PS5, you'd presume so. You know, I'd love to see a Death Stranding sequel, but again, I don't know how well it's sold, and I don't know how viable it will be. But, you know, that whole kind of experience with Death Stranding, the build-up to it, the anticipation, I think that in itself is something that's of value to Sony and to a console in terms of just keeping, you know, your gamers, your customers' eyes on your console, on your brand, on your exclusives. Absolutely. We'll have to see. At least positive in this early. Definitely.
I mean, as I think everyone on the channel knows, we are big fans of Kojima and his work and everything he does. So obviously we want to see him succeed and, you know, put more games out there. So obviously this is good news for us. Whatever that may be, it's good news. So.
Indeed, my friend. Move us on. Third topic.
So, politics in gaming. Interesting. So this comes from The Verge. Republican.
No, not Republican, mate. She's a Democrat. It's I think it's representative, maybe.
Okay. I do apologise, BArcadians. So Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, yeah.
We got there in the end. Made her Twitch debut tonight to play Among Us and encourage viewers to vote. She also very quickly became one of the platform's biggest broadcasters. Her stream peaked at 435,000 viewers around the time of her first match, according to Twitch. The stream has dipped to around 350,000 viewers as of this writing, and that's this writing of The Verge, after about 2 hours of her playing. The peak viewership puts her broadcast among the 20 biggest streams ever, according to the third-party metric site Twitch Tracker, and much higher if you're only looking at broadcasts from individual streamers. Ninja currently holds the record for an individual streamer with more than 600,000 viewers during a Fortnite match with Drake in 2018. Politicians have increasingly been using tech and games to get out their messages. The Biden campaign debuted in... is it Biden? I apologise. Debuted in Animal Crossing Island last week. So it's very interesting, apart from all of the errors I made during that.
Well, yeah, I mean, politics and games, do they mix? I've seen quite a lot on Twitter recently from quite a few of the kind of big names of IGN, and they're clearly expressing their political views, very much leaning towards please vote Trump out, you know, get the Democrats in. This is no longer a political choice, more of a moral choice. You know, we won't get too political on the channel, although I tend to agree with some of those leanings. But yeah, I think it's just quite interesting, isn't it, that a political figure has chosen gaming to try and, you know, get their message out there. Obviously, there's millions of gamers around the world now, so they're a rich source. But yeah, it's strange how she was so popular, Rich. I mean, was it just a novelty factor that people jumped on?
Possibly. I think it's really interesting. I think one thing's for sure, from what I've seen, is everyone's being encouraged to vote more in this election in the US. And I do think that getting the message for people to go out and vote is really important. And I stand by that message, and I don't think there's anything wrong with putting that message. Whether political views in gaming should be a thing, it's hard to say. Certainly it's not something, as Tabs has alluded to, that we would get involved with on the channel, because it just doesn't seem like it fits in what we are doing. But I understand, gamers and gaming, it's such a massive audience nowadays, and the uptake is huge, probably more so than ever given the trials and tribulations that we're all going through in the world right now, that it seems almost logical that they would think, well, actually, we've got some audience there. It's an ideal place to put across our points. Whether I think that's right or wrong, I don't know. It's difficult to say.
I think there's room for politics in gaming because, and again, I'm sure I've read something about this recently, but, art is political because it's going to touch on, philosophies, outlooks, viewpoints, and that in itself has, roots in politics because that's what politics is all about. It's the way we look at the world, the way we want the world to be governed, what we consider right, wrong, moral, just, whatever. So, I think there's room in it, but I think when it comes to, for example, we're not going to create a video on the channel that goes into detail about what political persuasion Rich and I lean into, because I think it's muddying the waters, isn't it? We want our channel to be all about video games and our passion for it. If you start bringing politics into it, well, it loses its focus. And as we know in this day and age, politics can be extremely divisive. So I think it's you need to keep things in check and in measure. But I like you say, Rich, I think it's great that people are being encouraged to vote, because that's certainly something that we should all be engaging with, because it has a massive effect on the way the world is and plays out. So
I guess ultimately I guess we'll leave that up for you guys to decide whether you think it's right or wrong that politicians are getting involved in the gaming world, such as Twitch, etc. I don't know. Interesting. Let us know what your thoughts are on that.
Indeed. And we'd love to hear from you.
Let's move on to everything else. So I'm going to kick this straight off with Sony have confirmed that the PS5's cooling will not be affected at all, whether it is horizontal or vertical.
Good news. Next up, Atari has announced a Mini Pong Junior. Is that right, Rich? Which is a new portable version of their classic game. Looks
cool. I've seen a picture of it. It almost looks, I don't know, it's weird. It's like, it almost looks like a Game Gear, but it's just got Pong on it. That's what I would describe it as. Probably more squarey. It's interesting looking. I think it looks very retro. That's how I would describe it, which I guess makes sense.
Maybe a Christmas present for all the granddads out there then, Rich.
I like it. Because I'll be honest, I've really struggled in my life not being able to play Pong on a standalone device to play it on. Surely you can just get Pong on a mobile phone.
Yeah, this is it. So it's a nice little stocking filler, isn't it? I think for the dads out there, maybe that's just about their era, so it could be something worth buying.
Anyway, a secret playable Luigi has been discovered in Super Mario Bros. 35. It requires a button press while loading, and you've also got to be a star rank, which I believe is quite high rank in that game. But yeah, it's really interesting that the players have managed to discover this.
Love a good Easter egg, so sounds good to me. There's been a tentative job listing suggested for Ghost of Tsushima 2. So that kind of tells us that perhaps is that in the works for PS5. And on the channel, as Rich has written here, here's hoping.
And unfortunately, to end this week, we have had confirmation that PT, the sort of tech scary demo that was out on the PS4, won't be backwards compatible with the PS5. So unfortunately, we won't be able to have that on the PS5. So sad times.
Does that mean, Rich, then, that if you've got it on your PS4 now, you want to just box that up and keep that forever?
Yeah, I'm assuming expect a wave of PS4s with PT installed on eBay soon with like $10,000 prices on them.
Yeah, I've never understood that, because presumably you have to sell your profile to these people as well, because surely they can't play it. Yeah, actually, you're right, yeah. I've never understood that, but I've got it on my PS4 Pro, so yeah, maybe I'll keep it just for kind of heritage sake.
Yeah, why not?
It's nice to have, isn't it, as a collector's piece?
Definitely.
Yeah, sign us out, Rich. Thank you very much, my friend.
So that's everything we've got on the news this week. We hope you've enjoyed that. If you have enjoyed that, definitely give us a like. It really helps grow and support the channel. If you're new here and you've come here by mistake probably. Definitely subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you join us here at Byron in Arcadia. And I think that's all we've got time for this week. Another one for the archive.
Stamping completed.